Light from the hallway creeps into my room, along with the Shadow Man too, I assume. Never before had I seen such a form that could change the candle's flame licks in a storm. Light as a monkey creeping on his knees, and he perched on the edge of the bed, if you please. Lest he begin, I wait here in the darkness till you fall asleep, and I come to your dreams with a promise to keep. From the night time till morning I'll torment your soul. I started to tremble, I covered my head, and took flight. He had deepened my plot and filled out with delight. I'd just about fell asleep when it started. It began when I felt something under my bed coming. As the stench of the Shadow Man's breath filled the air and the silence was broken 1 inch from my ear, and the Shadow Man whispered, "My boy, I'm right here." The Shadow Man by Kevin Mannis, owner of the Dybbuk Box, poet and writer. And yeah.
Welcome to today's episode of Remnants.
What did you say?
Why not?
Welcome to today's episode. I'm your host.
Yeah.
I just have never said it like that.
I'm trying to switch it up.
Okay.
No, you go.
Welcome to today's episode of Remnants. Sorry. Hi. Now I don't know how to start it. Okay, you do it again.
Do we just do? Hey, this is Remnants. I'm your host, Kayla.
And I'm Emily. We had some trouble beginning because we just did.
Yeah.
We tried something new, and I'm not professional.
No, I think it's cursed, our technology. Because
This episode is already cursed. Yeah.
Yes.
We were somehow inexplicably auto-tuned the first few times we tried recording. Literally, there's not a single setting on the things that we're using to record that was set to
Auto-tune.
Yeah, we're just hello, just for no reason.
So if we start randomly being auto-tuned in this episode, well, we're haunted.
It's the curse.
It's the curse.
The curse.
Yeah, so today's episode is about a singular haunted object. Maybe the most haunted object in the world, if Zak Bagans has his way.
Well, everything is the most something. Everything Zak Bagans encounters becomes a hyperbole. His life is a hyperbole.
At this point. Yeah, the Dybbuk Box.
Yes, haunted boxy box.
Yes.
It's, yeah, I don't know, like, I know you've seen it in person.
I have, yes.
And you've actually, like, you have some legit, like, stories about how that went for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of have some other very loose tie to the Dybbuk Box. So there's a couple things.
Yeah. Which I find, like, the actual lore behind what a Dybbuk is doesn't really seem to lend to boxes being a thing in it. Like, I don't know if you know much about the overall lore of the...
No, but I just kind of know the minimal amount that comes with when you look up Dybbuk Box.
Right.
The little blurb it gives you.
Yeah.
About what a Dybbuk is.
Right. Well, that was my hair clip. So the Dybbuk comes from Jewish folklore, and it's believed to be a human spirit that is restless because it committed some sort of sin in life that is keeping it from moving on to either heaven or Gehenna, which is essentially hell. And the spirit is capable of possessing a human body. And there's some things I've heard tellings in folklore say that the Dybbuk clings to people who have also sinned, and a lot of not necessarily speculation, but it's more kind of like the skeptical view of what the Dybbuk folklore was created for, was to kind of act as like the moral police. So like if somebody's doing something or behaving in some way that's not acceptable, they say, well, that person is possessed, so that behavior is wrong. It's an evil spirit
we must exorcise this evil spirit. So yeah, it was used a lot for like mental health and anxiety and all of that. Like that behavior is bad. It's a spirit. We have to exorcise it. We're not fixing it. That's just how we handle things that aren't acceptable, which isn't part of like the paranormal story, but that's kind of like
Where
kind of the cultural lens of what that story might have kind of initially been created for. Okay, now comes the part where I say a lot of things that I might mispronounce. I looked it up, but that probably means nothing. The word Dybbuk comes from the Hebrew expression. Oh my god, I need to say that again. Hebrew expression. I forgot all my words. The word Dybbuk comes from the Hebrew expression Ruah ha-medabek, which I'm sure I said 100% wrong, but I tried to find it.
you might not have.
Maybe. I mean, I said it better than I said Hebrew, which means the spirit who cleaves.
Okay, so that's where, because every time I saw, like, it was like explaining what a Dybbuk is, and it's like, it's a wandering spirit that cleaves to the soul, and I'm like, who uses the word cleave?
Cleaves.
That's such an aggressive
It
term for, anyways.
Yeah.
I just, like, it's not a word I say in everyday speech.
Yeah, so
Cleave.
that came from where the term Dybbuk originated. So these spirits were commonly believed in during the 16th and 17th centuries. Individuals suffering from anxiety and other mental disorders, like I mentioned earlier, were often taken to a miracle-working rabbi or a Baal Shem to have the spirit exorcised. A Baal Shem went by several names, but they all translated to master of the name in Hebrew. These men were regarded as miracle workers in Judaism, capable of curing all sorts of ills through the knowledge of the names of God. During the 17th and 18th centuries, the Baal Shem traveled Eastern Europe performing cures using herbal remedies, folk medicine, and something known as, tetragrammaton. Fuck, I said it wrong. Tetragrammaton. So tetragrammaton refers to the 4 Hebrew letters that signify the ineffable name of God.
All right.
Fancy sounding sentence.
Mm-hmm. Big words.
Yes. See, I can talk. These letters are often inscribed on amulets to assist the Baal Shem during an exorcism. I think the best reference, and I was laughing earlier when you mentioned the mummy because I was like, oh, it's in my notes. So the best reference I can think of when discussing tetragrammaton is Benny from the 1999 Mummy. So in the scene where Benny first meets Imhotep, he's like frantically fumbling through all of his amulets and none of them work until he gets to a prayer that he starts reciting in Hebrew, and he pulls out that amulet.
Yeah.
And I almost wanted to watch back to see like were there multiple, because like they refer 4, like that's what they reference in like what the Baal Shem would use in an exorcism as those 4 tetragrammaton. I don't know if that's specifically what that was, but I found that very interesting. It was the first thing I thought of, obviously, because I love the mummy. But like, yeah, so that's what you do if there's a Dybbuk, you go. Back to possession. So Jewish mysticism is known as Kabbalah. There isn't a single definition of Kabbalah as it varies by time period, tradition, and the aims of those empowering it or employing it. To explain it simply, Kabbalah is an esoteric teaching that seeks to describe the relationship between mortal man and the eternal God. It is from Kabbalism that we get the rituals for exorcising a Dybbuk. In Judaism, the concept of possession is based on Gilgul, or transmigration. All this sounded so cool.
Yeah.
A concept related to this in Kabbalism is, I'm going to say this very wrong, Ibur Neshama, meaning soul impregnation.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So possession can be a positive thing. For example, the soul of an ancient sage can enter the soul of a Kabbalist and grant them the additional spiritual wisdom of that older sage.
I could use some of that.
Me too. I could, my soul could be.
Take over and make
Yeah,
good
I was gonna
decisions.
say impregnated, and I was like, no.
I don't like that word.
I couldn't say it, but yeah, I could be possessed by somebody who's like good with money. Possession by a Dybbuk is more sinister. These possessions are unwilling. The soul committed a sin in life that needs to be basically they need to sacrifice almost the sin they committed. Like, they need to make up for what they did before they're able to move on.
Yeah.
So they're sort of a vengeful spirit, but they've got an agenda and they need to try to...
And they're kind of just using the person as a means to an end. Like...
Yeah, pretty much. So over time, tales of Dybbuk exorcisms were shared largely to impress the holiness of the exorcising rabbi onto others. So it kind of goes back to how it was sort of a tool to spread, I don't know if religious fervor is the right word, but kind of just to keep the religion strong.
Yeah.
Moving into the 20th century, the concept of a Dybbuk possession was popularized in media by S. Ansky's play The Dybbuk, which was produced for film in 1938.
Oh.
And a more current adaptation of the tale is the 2012 film The Possession, which features a haunted antique box purchased at a yard sale. And that is where I hand it to you, my friend.
That is where our story begins. Well, specifically the Dybbuk Box story.
Mm-hmm.
It begins in 2001 when Kevin Manus, who he purchased the cabinet from a yard sale in Portland, Oregon. He bought the cabinet from the granddaughter of a recently deceased Holocaust survivor named Kayla. I think that's how you would say it. Who escaped Nazi-occupied Poland to Spain. She was the only surviving member of her family. And after fleeing, she created the Dybbuk Box to deal with her grief, but inadvertently created an attachment with something dark. She lived to be 103, and when she came to the United States, the cabinet was one of the few possessions she brought with her. The cabinet contains 2 copper pennies, one from 1925 and one from 1928. A stone tablet inscribed with Shalom. A golden wine cup. A lock of blonde hair and a lock of black hair. Dried rosebud. A black candlestick holder with octopus legs. And I guess an evil spirit.
Yeah, that's like the important part that I feel like is left off the list.
Yeah, when you look at the list of what is in the cabinet, I'm like, and also the Dybbuk?
Yeah, and one demon. It is kind of sad, like, if she put the box together to deal with her grief, like, are those all things from, like, relatives that were killed or something? Or, like, what?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's, like, I feel like this story buries the lead a lot of just the massive sadness that was probably associated with it for us to be like, ghost story, ooh.
Yeah.
Which it's, like, I don't know.
There's kind of some, I don't know if holes in the story, but, like, there's some missing information, like... Well, details.
Whose hair was that? Why the rosebud? Why does this cup have or why does this candle have octopus legs?
Literally everywhere that I read, like they specifically call it the octopus legs. So I'm like, okay.
I mean, you can't pass on a candle with octopus legs. Like, that's just weird. Yeah. Clearly, that's associated with demons somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a weird box.
It's a weird box. It's like, guess she found all these things in Spain.
I guess.
So that's also a hole in the story. It would be 2 American pennies that were in the box. But she brought the box with her. I'm thinking out loud now.
Like, maybe the octopus is a symbol.
So Kevin buys this box from this estate sale. Within 10 minutes of bringing this box to his antique shop, he gets a call from his store manager who's in hysterics. And she said, someone's destroying the basement. Get back here. So Manus returns, and his store manager just like pushes past him and runs out the door and never comes back to work. And then he went down in the basement and he said he found all the light bulbs smashed, tools were thrown around, and the strong smell of cat urine.
God damn it, Kira. Did you go trash this man's basement and pee everywhere?
She's sleeping right now. Like, no comment.
It was me.
No comment. But he did not find any intruder. So.
Cat urine, that is a bad smell.
I mean, yeah, that's about the worst smell, I think, on the planet.
Like, what if there was just a really mad cat in that box and it got out? It's like,
yeah.
Destroy!
Maybe it literally was just a cat.
I mean, they're kind of demonic sometimes if you pick the wrong cat.
Yeah.
So somebody just sold us, like, how do I get rid of this bitch-ass cat?
Yeah. Just put it in a box and
Market it as a demon box.
And we'll put it for sale at my yard sale.
It's like Yzma from Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
Put it in a box, put it in another box, and I'll ship it to myself, and then I'll smash it with a hammer.
Exactly.
I'm done.
So the story just is going to get weirder. So then a short time later, Manus gives the box to his mother as a birthday present.
Does he hate his mom?
I know, it's such a weird, because even if you don't think it's haunted, like, it's not a particularly, like, cool looking box. Like
here's
it's very
this stinky old box filled with hair.
Like cat urine. Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom. Don't know whose hair this is.
And
God.
Yeah, he said within minutes of her opening it, he could tell that she was having a stroke. And so, rushed her to the hospital, and she lost her speech. And he said that while in the hospital, like, they had given her this, like a board to write on, and she wrote, "No gift, hate gift." It's not funny, but, like, it is, like, it's like, was that her first words? He's like, "Mom, how are you doing?" Hate gift. I'm going to hell. I don't know. It's just like, it's funny, not funny. But in a 2012 interview on the TV series Paranormal Witness, his mother, Ida is her name, she described, like, feeling a cold breeze from the box when she opened the doors and then experiencing pure evil coming out. And she said she immediately had a stroke. So
Maybe it was all that ammonia.
I mean, cat urine is just it's strong.
I've almost passed out cleaning litter boxes before. I was like, well,
I mean, you can't clean them when you're pregnant. There must be a reason for that.
yeah, maybe a cat just peed on that thing and it was just sitting in somebody's basement gathering evil spirits for years.
Yeah.
Evil spirits and cat pee, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Hate box.
Hate gift. So then, this Kevin guy. So after that failed, he attempted to give the box to his brother and his sister and also his girlfriend.
Oh my God.
And all three returned it with various complaints. Mostly, it smells like cat urine or it smells like jasmine. His sister said that the doors flew open on their own. And, they all said, like, they were seeing shadows out of the corner of their eyes.
Why is he giving people this box?
He must hate his family. I don't know.
I'm going to give you the box now, sucker.
But I guess maybe it's because he couldn't sold it, because I guess one couple that did buy it from his store, he found it on the shop's doorsteps with a note, "This has a bad darkness." Like, they brought it back.
This has a bad
So
darkness.
maybe, I don't know the order of these things. Like, I don't know if he, like, sold it and brought it back, and then he was like, well, I gotta get rid of this somehow. I think in an article I read, he said, I don't know if it was him or maybe another owner, but they talked about they were afraid to destroy it. Like some people, like,
fully
why
released it or something.
Right, like, they were too afraid to, like, like, burn it or just throw it away.
Right,
so.
like, just abandon it in an alley somewhere.
Yeah.
Leave.
Yeah, make
Bye.
it someone else's problem.
Yeah, like, they won't know to give it back to you then.
Yeah.
Don't give me a cursed object.
Yeah.
Not my fucking problem.
Yeah. Not my problem. It's like Jumanji. Like,
It is.
Like, throw it away. Well, here the story takes kind of a dark turn for a little bit. Kevin Manus does say that the brother of a store employee died by suicide shortly after visiting the shop and accidentally knocking the cabinet off the shelf. And a couple years later, the worker himself took his own life. So that's kind of some, like, dark, disturbing tied to the Dybbuk Box.
Yeah, and you wonder, like, is it actually related, or did somebody just capitalize on something sad happening and be like, well, he knocked the box over?
So, yeah.
Well,
we'll kind of get into that with some of the other owners and their stories. But so after all this, Manus finally just took the box home himself. And
wow, man, good job.
That's when he began experiencing nightly dreams of less horrifying, like, witch old crone type woman. And after like describing that to his brother and sister and his girlfriend, they were all like, yeah, we also have those nightmares. So at this point, he's like, yeah, I need to get rid of this.
Oh, shit.
So this is 2 years of him owning it and trying to get rid of it. So in 2003, he lists it on eBay, and he wrote a very long and detailed like product description with all of these, just explaining all the things that have been happening and, you know, the kind of just the history of his experience with it and why he wants to get rid of it. And he ends the description with, help me. So,
Oh my God.
at this point, like the details of the next owner is kind of fuzzy, but it apparently was bought from Manus for $140 by a young man named Joseph who lived in Kirksville, Missouri. Some say he was a student at Truman State University. Other articles have said he just lived near the campus. Regardless, that's how it wound up in Kirksville, Missouri. So this Joseph, he bought it and brought it to his house that he shared with 6 roommates.
Mm-hmm.
And Manus said he tried to warn him about the ill effects of the box over the phone, but Joseph wanted to buy it anyways. Manus said that the day he shipped the box, he felt a palpable difference in the environment in his home, and it was like coming up out of water. Joseph's experience with owning the box, he apparently lost the majority of his hair. He had insect problems in the house. His roommates complained of waking up with burning eyes. They all complained of strange odors coming from the box, and they saw shadows out of the corners of their eyes. After this short time, Joseph's roommates were like, please get rid of this box. So he listed it on eBay and wrote all the, quote, side effects of the box in his eBay post. And that's when Jason Haxton, also a resident of Kirksville, he is the director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine at A.T. Still University in Kirksville. He bought the box, I think, in 2004. I didn't really find a date for it, but it's Joseph bought it in 2003, and so he had it for a little bit. So I'm going to think Jason Haxton bought it around 2004.
Jesus.
So what's kind of my sort of loot, and Jason then owned it for the longest, then he didn't sell it to Zak Bagans until 2016. So he had it for a significant chunk of time. And kind of my loose connection is that I lived in Kirksville during this time. I went to Truman State University, and so I lived there from 2006 to 2010. So I lived there when the Dybbuk Box lived there.
Oh, so I don't think I realized that you lived there at the same time.
Yeah, because I remember when the 2012 movie, The Possession, Sam Raimi's movie, when that came out, and I remember all of my college friends were like, oh my God, this is about Kirksville. Because it's a town of 17,000 people in the middle of Northwest Missouri. It's not really famous for anything.
Right, and the box is there.
And the box is there. So we were all pretty excited about, there's Hollywood's making a movie about us. Not really, but
Close enough.
Close enough.
Close enough.
It was a hot topic for a little bit, but
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
yeah, so.
Even worse to know that you've got cat pee box living in your town.
Yeah, but I didn't even know it.
God, if you'd known it now, you would have gone to that house and be like, can I see?
I totally would.
Can I see your box, please?
Yes.
You know the one.
Yes.
The one that made you bald.
Well, apparently, where he lived is next to the Truman State University farm, which I would go out there because it was really cool. They had they just had horses out there you could go visit, and also that's where what's the thing that looks at stars?
Fuck, what is it called?
The huge, massive telescope.
Yeah.
That you could go out there and look at the planets and stars, and did that a couple times, which was pretty cool. I was potentially pretty close to this box.
Maybe the
haunted
Dybbuk
box.
liked to visit the farm too.
Yeah.
Take a stroll with the animals. Look at the stars. That was the best time of its life.
He was playing that time I fell into a snowbank while out at the farm. He was trying to film a news story.
Let's go.
I did. I was just walking. We should post the video because I have me on camera like trying to film at the farm, and I just fall into this.
Maybe you were pushed by the Dybbuk.
It was the Dybbuk.
He pushed you.
Anyways, back to Haxton. So he says the trouble began for him as soon as he touched the box. He writes that he had a searing stomach pain that overwhelmed him, and that evening he was haunted by dreams of a horrible woman with sunken eyes. His health soon deteriorated, and he began experiencing choking attacks. He had hives, and then he also like had this. His eyes would like kind of bleed sometimes. Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah. He said he tested the surface of the wood for any substance that might explain the effects. He kind of had the most like scientific approach to it.
Like that would
like ammonia or some other toxin, and he said all the tests came back negative that he performed. He said he and his son would sometimes get the cat urine smell or jasmine.
Those are two wildly different things too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so confused.
Yeah. He said the heat in his house stopped working one time. To get that replaced.
Well, I mean, that has to be a spirit. There's no way that could just happen.
Nope.
My heater broke. God damn it!
It must be this box.
This motherfucking ghost again.
So after all these events have happened, he, apparently consulted, I don't know, some paranormal group, and they were like, you gotta seal it in a 24 karat lined wood box and put these religious items in there with it to counter the evil.
So interesting. Like I found something that said it was a rabbi that he reached out to.
The article I read just said it was a paranormal group.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I wonder which it was.
I mean, a rabbi would make more sense,
but would they have known? Were they even associating it with a Dybbuk at that point? Because would they have known to reach out?
I mean, it was a Dybbuk box. There was that hit. Yeah.
They were calling it Dybbuk at that point. They weren't just buying the stupid smelly box.
No, it was labeled because Kevin labeled it Dybbuk Box on his eBay post. So yeah, they were calling it a Dybbuk Box. So then
they would have had a reason to think it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I like the religious items he put in were, I think it might have been like a Kabbalah book, and it was Judaism related religious items. So
yeah. But everything else, as far as like the gold lined wood container, is the same. Yeah. It's just either a paranormal investigator or a rabbi.
Maybe it was both.
Maybe it's both. Paranormal investigating rabbi.
You never know. He wrote a book, so maybe we need to consult like what he wrote in the book.
Yeah, we'll have to find his book, and hopefully that's not possessed too.
Yeah.
All his books. I don't want anything to do with that thing.
He put it in this box, and then he put it in a military box, and he buried it in the ground, he said, to keep it safe from the public.
Of course.
Because which makes sense, maybe this, I don't know how long it was. He said he kept it in the ground for 5 years, so if you kind of backtrack, he sold it to Zak in 2016. So he probably didn't bury it till like 2011. So I don't know if by then the movie news was kind of like out. Maybe he said like a lot of people were curious about the box, or just word gets out in a small town.
He's like, you can't visit it. I buried it in the ground
to keep you safe.
And then he decided he didn't want to keep people safe anymore, and he sold it to a museum. This belongs in a museum
for everyone to see.
Everyone. Surely Zak will keep us safe.
But but there were some. So when the movie was being made, that there were some weird things that happened on the set too.
Ooh,
so in an entertainment week, this place is good. That's my favorite quote. In an Entertainment Weekly article, the director said like really weird things happened during production. He describes like standing underneath a neon light that randomly exploded. And he says 5 days after shooting wrapped, all of the props from the film were destroyed in a mysterious fire.
Huh. That's interesting.
That'd
been more exploding lights.
Yeah, so.
I always find movie curses or like haunted sets so interesting because that happens in a lot of like horror films, especially that just bad things happen.
Yeah.
Just like, should we be doing a podcast?
I mean, like the Poltergeist. Ooh, we should do that one on the Poltergeist movie. That's actually really sad. And like pretty much everyone died.
Yeah, that too. I thought I heard something. I got a little creeped out.
Oh, and this was like an interesting thing, tidbit of information. So the home that Haxton lives in Crooksville, it's like a historic home, and 4 people have died there, and it's also next to a cemetery.
Oh.
But he says the activity didn't start in his home until they brought the Dybbuk Box in. But also, he might live in a haunted house.
And didn't so you got me hooked watching Sam and Colby now.
Yes.
And I was watching, oh shit. This was not even this Dybbuk Box. They had a whole Dybbuk Box unboxing.
Oh, yeah, because, Dybbuk Box, you can now buy them on...
just buy them on eBay or Etsy. I saw several on Etsy.
Yeah.
And this is completely unrelated because they bought a box that belonged to a lady who lives next to a cemetery, and she helps spirits make their way out. And apparently she helps spirits find people to possess. And so
Sounds like a nice lady.
Yeah, and they just bought this box, and they were like, oh my god, did you just buy a box that contains a ghost that's going to possess us? That's why I brought it up, because she makes Dybbuk boxes, and she lives next to a cemetery.
Yeah.
So she's just out there catching ghosts in a box, like, oh, gotcha.
Now I'm going to go sell you.
Off to eBay you go.
Do you think Etsy owned, thinking back, did they ever think that their site would be a site that would sell haunted boxes?
Probably not. Well, I guess it is handmade.
Hand captured.
Hand captured. She went out and got these ghosts all on her own. And then she sealed it up with wax and sold an empty box on Etsy.
Yep.
For I think they're $80 or something. Kayla legit asked, do you want one of these for your birthday? I'm like, no, I do not.
She's no fun, Emily. Yeah.
You can open it in your place.
Nah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I don't want to open it here. I'm already worried we bring stuff back as it is.
Yeah, so what's one more object?
Too many.
So, yeah, that's kind of the history leading up to then, the infamous Zak Bagans owning the box, who is still the current owner. Crazy Haunted Museum in Las Vegas.
Which I do want to go to, even though it looks...
Yeah.
So...
It's an interest. So I have been, and I went almost exactly 5 years ago today. I went February 17th, 2018, which I think the museum hadn't been open for that long. I think it opened in maybe 2017. I need to probably look that up. But so yeah, I got some. I'm gonna deviate because I gotta tell some funny Zak stories. So my friend Hillary and I, we were mildly obsessed with Zak back in the early in the 2010s.
Was it oh, you're so handsome, Zak?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was.
Well,
was it the?
I don't want to be talking for Hillary, but I think she had a bigger crush on him than I did.
Oh.
So we.
Oh God.
I'm gonna admit this. So we definitely went to Vegas a couple times. We had stalked him on Twitter, where he likes to eat. And he would
Kayla, no.
And he and Aaron would talk about how they'd walk the strip at night. So we went to Vegas a couple times, mostly to see if we could try to meet Zak. Because this was pre him owning the museum.
Did you just walk the strip at night and be like, oh, Zak,
I mean,
where are you?
Not really, but we did go to this restaurant that he liked to frequent via his, he'd post on Twitter that he was there, and we definitely went there a couple times.
Day, where is he?
Yeah. Is he coming in the door?
Hunting the ghost hunter.
Yeah. Where? Yeah. I mean, we didn't go so far as to stalk and try to find his house or anything, but we did mildly. And Hillary had the idea, because this was back when we wanted to have a vlog or video series. She was like, let's call it Zak Bagans. But then then we found out his last name's actually pronounced Bagans, not Baggins, so it kind of ruined our...
Bilbo Baggins.
Baggins, Zak Bagans.
Nah, it's Bagans the Baggins.
Bagels with Bagans.
You just meet him and I got you a bagel.
Be my boyfriend.
I think this is... Would you like it? It's good.
So this was us with a friend who we hosted a couple Ghost Adventures watch parties. Yeah, we were kind of, but you know what, back then Zak was fun. It was he was sillier and it wasn't so serious back in the 2010s.
Because he's had so many people stalk him since then.
Hey, we never ever found him, so we
we never found him.
So weird.
You were just unsuccessful.
We were unsuccessful stalkers.
That doesn't make it better. The intention was still there, Kayla.
Well, the story gets better because we have met him. So when we went to the museum, and I don't know if he still acts this way, but you know, I think the museum would have only been like open a year or so when we went there, but it's in a house, so the house is haunted, and it's like it's just a weird vibe, this place. There's like 33 rooms, so like you just kind of go the tour. There's maybe like 10 to 12 people in your group, and the guide just like takes you room to room to all these haunted objects. Well, when we went, like Zach was literally just like lurking behind our group, like in the hallway. Like we'd come out into the hallway and he's just like there in the back, like watching us. And then we'd go into the next room and like we'd come out and I'm like, there he is again. It was so weird. Like he didn't say a thing to anyone.
Was he like super intense looking the whole time?
Yes. And he was just like, I don't know if he's like just waiting for something to happen. It was just so weird. So then we got just like too weirded out to like go up and talk to him because he was just giving off such weird vibes. We even kind of like lingered of course there's a gift shop at the end. We even kind of just like lingered in the gift shop, like, because he was just kind of lingering, but he just was giving off such weird vibes. We're like, we can't go up to him. And by this point, we weren't quite as obsessed with him anymore, but
maybe he like had unleashed a super dark spirit and he's like, I want to see which one of them gets possessed. I
mean, there's a lot of haunted stuff in that museum.
Including him.
Yeah. I mean, he'd probably agree with that.
It's like, I'm the most haunted object here, other than the box.
So I have seen the Dybbuk Box in person. Hillary wouldn't go in the room. And I went into the room, and I've never had such a reaction to an object. Like, I had to like force myself into the room, and then I like stood in the back corner, like as far away from it as you can, like while the tour guide's talking. And like, you know, at the end they're like, if you want to come up closer, and I did, but I had to, it was like so weird. I like had to force my feet to like move closer to it. Like I've never had such a reaction to something. But I don't know how much of that is like just my knowledge of what the object was. And like the walls are like painted black. And so it's, you know, and it's like lowly lit. So like the room's creepy. So I don't know if that's kind of just like, you know, your fight or flight instincts being like, this room is weird.
Yeah, like you don't want to be in here.
Or if, I don't know, is it the box?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like with that,
because I didn't have that reaction. Because then the room like next door is where the Peggy doll is, and I remember I don't know. I kind of went in there. I was like, okay. I don't know. Like all the other rooms in that house.
I feel like I'd be the opposite. It was like, oh my god.
Hillary didn't go into the Peggy doll room either. She was probably smarter.
I know. Like I say I want to go there, but I'm so weird with cursed objects that I'm just like, you know, better not find out.
Yeah,
best not.
So. I don't know. So yeah, I didn't have any weird reactions in any other room in that museum, but definitely the Dybbuk Box one messed with me, you know.
Yeah, and that's like more compelling than like a lot of the other things I've heard. But then like, were you also just equally creeped out because Zach's just in the background, just like it was dark, ominous.
Literally the whole time we were in the museum, he was just like following our group, but like from a distance. It was super weird.
You got stalked back.
Yeah, that's right. You're laughing at me for stalking. He stalked me.
It was karma.
Yeah.
He knew who you were. Like, you followed me. I know you followed me. You made me afraid. Now I'll make you afraid. Wow.
Yeah. So.
I wish I had a history with Zak Bagans. Bagans?
Bagans.
Bagans.
We said Bagans for so long, and it was like we finally listened to him pronounce his own name. It's like, oh wait,
it's like, wow. Bagans is better.
Yeah.
Don't you want to be a hobbit?
Right?
Guess not.
Yeah. Sad. So, anyways, that's my kind of little ties to the Dybbuk Box. Is I lived in Kirksville, Missouri.
Basically, you are the Dybbuk Box, I think. You have so many connections. I think you're cursed.
I'm cursed.
Yeah.
I followed the box.
You did.
All the way to Vegas.
But you didn't stay. You're not committed to the box.
No.
You disappointed it.
I haven't been back to visit it.
Maybe you should buy it next.
Oh, yeah, and I love how, like, Zach bought it from Jason Haxton for an undisclosed amount.
Yeah, when it was sold for less than like 300 every time it was sold, and Zach's like, I'll take it for $5 million.
I probably did pay a ridiculous amount because I feel like Haxton wasn't. I don't think he was really that willing to sell it.
Yeah, and the movie had come out since then and everything, so could have been worth it.
I bet Zach paid a pretty penny for it.
And to put it
as and it's the most like it's his like it's the
crowning jewel
of the museum,
his collection.
Which is even more so since, actually, you know what? This happened in 2018 too, the Post Malone thing. I wonder if that was before or after I visited it. Probably after, because I went in February 2018.
So maybe he was really worried. He's like, I gotta make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Another Post
That's
Malone
another
incident.
weird thing. So like when I saw it, it was just like in a glass case and you could get like pretty close to it. It's now like got this weird, massive like wood structure around it.
And it had like Hebrew inscriptions on the windows, which is very.
So I wonder when he did that. Maybe after the Post Malone incident. So that's where, if you guys haven't like heard about that, because you live under a rock. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Shouldn't everybody know that Post Malone was almost killed by a demon?
Yeah.
3 times.
Like, don't you follow paranormal news?
Duh.
Duh.
And didn't he like visit? And,
yeah. So it was on an episode of Ghost Adventures Quarantine.
Oh my
And so Zach opened the box and he supposedly heard it say Kevin, which probably referencing, you know, Kevin Mann is the owner, and evil was also another word that came out. Yeah, so the highlight is like security footage of like Zach like touching the Dybbuk box, and Post Malone's got his arm on Zach. So like Post Malone didn't directly touch it, but like he's touching Zach and Zach's touching the box. And they kind of have a weird reaction because then Zach like suddenly like, I don't know if you've watched it.
Yeah,
he like pulls back and then they're kind of like standing next to each other and then they like kind of get out of the room quickly. It was a weird.
Yeah.
It's weird looking.
Yeah, it was almost like they were playing Ding Dong Ditch or something.
Yeah.
And just like, whoosh, whoosh, run.
But they like hesitate before they run out of the room. Go. Yeah, it's weird. And then actually like Post Malone isn't even the one that was like, yeah, it was cursed. It was like kind of like the internet. Like, so he had these series of things happen to him. His like plane had to make an emergency landing. His home got broke into and his car crashed.
Yeah, like all in the same like month or something.
Yeah, like all pretty close together. So then people are like, it's because you touched the box.
And I heard that like he just had a Twitter post that just said God hates me.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. That was his. So he's never really come out and said, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's the Dybbuk. Everybody else is like, no, it is though.
It is the Dybbuk.
Yeah, because you touched that. No, it's Zak.
Mm-hmm.
It's Zak Bagans. You touched Zak, and that's where the actual curse came from.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm convinced of.
Yeah.
The Dybbuk lives in him now. That's why he was following you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He's like, maybe I want to transfer to one of these people.
It's like that girl looks like a good candidate.
It's like she had demon eyes as a child.
Oh yeah, I've got to post that. I was showing Emily like baby and toddler pictures of me. My God, my eyes were so black and like no
black soulless voids.
Yeah, there's like no white.
No, and she just has this little smile, just like, you don't want to know who I was in past life.
Yeah.
Hopefully the demon's washed out of you now. You've been alive
I think
long enough.
Well, my eyes are green now. They did change color. So at some point, I guess I got exercised.
You have to talk to your parents. Like, hey.
They did take me to see, like, because I guess when I was a kid, I never drew suns in my pictures. And so they were concerned about me.
Never drew suns and had black eyes. You know, honestly, if you still want to make a connection with Zach, just reach out to him like that. Hey, Zach.
Look at this baby picture of me.
Look at me. Tell me I don't belong in your museum. Museum. In your museum, hey?
I think you hang out with a 2-year-old too much.
I do. I forget how to say my R's. I go to museum. Oh my God. 2-year-olds and demons. My company.
Yeah.
What do you think about the box? Do you think it's actually like possessed or?
Well, so should we talk about the twist ending to this story?
Yeah. I want to hear the twist.
So in 2021, I don't know why I said it like that.
2021.
I don't know, this Dr. Pepper's hitting me weird all of a sudden. In 2021, Manus came out and said that he made the whole thing up. But he was really weird. So it was during an interview, and I'll link the article because it's actually the way the journalist wrote it is like he wrote it kind of as a narrative, so it's an interesting read. But basically, like he kind of was calling Kevin out on some of the holes in the story, and so like I don't know. I guess he like called Kevin back a few days later and was like kind of called him out on the bullshit and was like, what's going on? What's the real story? And that's when like Kevin came out and said that yeah, it was entirely fictional. He did buy the cabinet at a yard sale in Oregon, but everything he put in there was he did. And he said that if anyone can find reference to a Dybbuk box before 2001, before 2003, and he had it on eBay, he'd pay them like $100,000 because he's like, I made up Dybbuk Box. Like, that's not a thing.
Huh. So interesting. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess it did kind of obviously blow up, but
I mean, when he owned an antique shop, so I don't know if he was kind of trying to use it as like a kind of like promotional type thing, you know, like advertising in a way.
yeah.
I mean, he's made money off of it because he also got paid, I think, for the film rights. So, but yeah, I don't know why it took him so long to recount it because I'm like, he'd been on numerous shows.
Yeah.
Like even his mom, you know, went on a show talking about her experience. And I guess this journalist asked him about that. And, you know, Kevin Manus is like, yes, my mother gave like an Oscar-worthy performance. And it's like, I don't know, did she?
That's so,
Did
yeah,
she
it does
not?
seem weird. And like, did he just like come clean because he didn't want to keep lying, or like, is this the lie? Or...
Right, because now people like, I think because it's gotten so famous because it's now at Zak Bagans Museum. Like,
right.
I think he's probably gotten called out more on the holes in his story, like this journalist was doing. So maybe, yeah, he finally was just fed up trying to.
Yeah, he's like, this kind of started as a prank and it went crazy, which is like, it's a lot of those stories do start out that way.
Mm-hmm.
It also just makes me laugh a little because it's like, Zach has this and it's like the centerpiece of his museum, and now they're like, it's not real.
Yeah. But kind of related to that, so like Jason Haxton was asked about, you know, this, about Manus confessing to making the whole thing up. And he, quote, said that whoever created the Dybbuk Box gave it a power to do something. The creation of the Dybbuk Box and its story created a ripple effect in people's lives. The sum of the Dybbuk Box is greater than he ever imagined.
Mm. So he did, if that quote is true, then he did create the Dybbuk Box, and more than just like creating the concept, he created the curse.
Which some of that is like, can just people giving it all of this power make it haunted?
And
or
yeah,
you attribute everything bad happening in your life to the box.
Yeah, it could be that, and I guess it all comes down to what you believe in. Like, if you believe in energies and there being the ability to, like, if you were to blame all of the bad things in your life on the box, then in theory you could be sending all of the negative energy into it, and if it were able to like be a vessel and store that, then yeah, it would be a bad box because it's got all the bad stuff. But that's even a thing that could possibly happen. Right.
I mean, that's up to, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if you believe that. I mean, Sam and Colby on their episode at Zach's museum, they kind of talk about that when they're like trying to, like, when they're in the Dybbuk Box room, I forget which one of them says it, but it's like, well, actually this box has been opened so many times that the Dybbuk would have been released.
Yeah.
And maybe what's left is just the bad energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting concept, like,
yeah.
And if not even that, like, even if it's not anything related to the box, like, is us just being really afraid of something enough to give it some sort of power, or is it just a scapegoat more than anything?
Yeah. So yeah, now I like try to wrestle with my feelings of when I saw it. Is it just, I maybe lean towards, well, maybe I just, because I went in with this knowledge of what it was. Yeah. At the time, it wasn't, a hoax yet. And just the room being creepy, I think maybe just my body didn't like it.
Yeah, like, is it enough that mentally, even if it isn't, like, if a obvious natural reason to be afraid of it. If mentally you have all these stories in your head that make it a threat, you get your fight or flight, response regardless. Like,
Right.
I don't know. But I mean, I'm sure I would be terrified if I saw it.
Yeah.
Even now, I'd be like, what if it still is true?
Exactly. I mean, it's creepy, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mess with that cursed stuff. Like, all the cursed dolls, when they say you can't look at them or, disrespect them, I'll be like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever you say, I'm not messing with a cursed doll.
I don't need that in my life.
I don't like looking at normal dolls, even if they're not cursed. I'm like,
so we're never going to the Island of the Dolls in Mexico.
Oh, hell no.
Actually, you know what would keep me from ever going there is because it's freaking spider heaven.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, anytime I watch an episode of people going there are so many spiders.
Spiders and dolls all in one island. Great.
Spiders coming out of dolls.
Literal nightmare.
Yeah.
I used to, so my cursed object story from when I was a kid, and of course it's dolls. My grandma used to get me, those porcelain dolls that have this little frilly fancy dresses. She used to get them for me all the time, even though I hated dolls.
Oh.
And because it was a present from my grandma, my mom would line them all up on this dresser across from my bed.
So they could watch over you.
I remember I couldn't fall asleep because I'd be laying awake staring at these dolls, and I was convinced their heads would turn and their eyes would move to look at me.
Yeah.
And there's one night I was falling asleep, and it literally felt like somebody patted the top of my head, and I'm just like, it's the dolls. It's probably my parents. Just, why would they do that, though?
Well, but sometimes the parents would they'll go in and check on the kids.
Yeah, I do that with my kid. I just creepily look in his room
Is he
stare,
asleep?
like, are you breathing?
Okay.
Yeah. So every story a kid has of, like, a ghost in their door is just their parents like, are you alive? Are you okay? Okay. And my kid sleeps with red lights on.
Oh, well,
so it's probably so terrifying. It's just like, darn.
My favorite story my dad tells of, like, when I was a kid is, I guess I just didn't like to wake my parents up, so I would just stare at them till they woke up. And I guess this one night there was, like, a thunderstorm, and my dad said he, like, shot up out of the bed because, like, he just, like, the lightning hits, and he just sees this little person, me, staring at him in the night.
With your black eye.
With my black eye.
It's just like, shh. It's just... Oh my God, you were creepy. I was just terrified and you were creepy.
I didn't want to wake them up, so I would just stare at them till they woke up. Maybe it's because I was possessed.
I think you were. I hope you were. It's gone.
It's just a weird child.
I hope you're not currently still possessed and, like, we're just gonna provoke the demon that's been chilling.
Yeah, it's been dormant for 20
Like,
years.
yeah, I like all this stuff you've been doing lately. It feeds me.
If my eyes ever go black.
First time I use a spirit box and we get one, your eyes are just gonna fill in with black.
Oh
and
my
you're like,
God,
oh,
that's so creepy.
I'm sorry.
Don't put that out there.
Oh God! Wow. Well,
I think our next episode better be about exorcisms.
it should be.
It's on our docket.
Yeah, we might need to, like, consult some professionals for advice and be like, hey, one of us is either currently possessed or will be possessed at some point.
Yeah, so.
And maybe I just do need to go the route of Benny and just have all the options there, just in case.
Every religion.
Just like, hold on, let me get the right talisman here.
Yep.
I also have cats, though, so I feel like if I learned anything from the mummy,
They don't like cats.
I'm safe.
Yeah, that's true. Are you going to protect your mama, Kira? Maybe.
was not a very...
Enthusiastic, yeah. Kind of slowly blinking.
She's like, I just want you to stop talking. Honestly, if letting the demons take you does that, I'm okay with it.
Oh, I guess we didn't really talk about, like, what you read at the beginning, what that was. The poem.
Oh, right, the poem. So, part of the way we prepare for our episodes is, apart from doing the normal research, we'll watch, like, other, like, paranormal shows and everything on...
The topic.
Yeah. Look, we're completing each other's sandwiches.
Well, Hopefully I'm saying it the right way.
So Kayla always watches Ghost Adventures because she's obsessed with Zak. And she's like sending me videos. She's recording on her phone. And I have no fucking idea what's happening in it. It's just this recording. It's a recording of Zak and company in a control room watching another man on a TV screen in black and white. And he's just standing there just mumbling in the dark. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Kayla just... Apparently, did you transcribe that while you were like? Where did you get the full poem?
Yeah, so I was like pausing it and writing it out.
Jesus Christ! You're so, what's he saying? I must write this down.
Well, first I was like, well, I didn't know if what he was saying was like, I'm like, is this some Edgar Allan Poe poem? So I like first I just wrote a couple lines and like Googled them and they didn't show up anywhere. So then I had watched this before I read this other article which just makes the story funnier. So anyways, this is during an episode of Zak Bagans' show called Deadly Possessions. And this is before he owned the Dybbuk Box. So Jason Haxton brought it to Las Vegas. Did he fly with that? I have some questions now that I'm thinking about it. Anyways,
that's true. Like how?
He brought the box to... Zak's museum.
A demon just checking his music.
And he interviews Jason Haxton and then also Kevin Mannis. And so Zak's like, hey, Kevin, when was the last time you saw the box? And he's like, I don't know. It's been like 10 or 12 years. He's like, do you want to see it? And Kevin's like, sure.
I'd be like, fuck.
And even Zak's like, you don't have to. And so Kevin's like, oh, sure, I'll go. So anyways, it's in the basement, like just in this room by itself. And so, Kevin goes in there and then he like opens the box, and then shortly after he just starts reciting, like he goes into a different accent. He's like reciting this poem, and Zak in this control nerve center watching him is like freaking out. He's like, what the fuck is he doing? What is he saying? Like he's calling on,
like he's doing some sort of ritual.
They're like, this is, I don't know if it's like Aaron or Billy say like, this is like witchcraft type stuff. Like they feel like he's like invoking something.
He was talking in a weird British accent.
It was, and the poem, I mean, it's a good poem. It's kind of creepy. Well, it turns out, so in this article, Kevin said that he was just brought into this room and they like closed the door and like didn't really explain anything. And he was like down there for like 25 minutes and he was like got bored and he was like reciting this poem at a play in a few days. So he just like decided to practice it. Because he was bored, just like waiting on them.
And he's like, this fits the theme.
But he's also weird because he's like just talking to the wall as he recites it. So it's like, I feel like he was also putting on a bit of a performance. Yeah. And I think Zak, I guess, did dramatize it in the editing. But I think at the time, like, he didn't know what was going on. I mean, that would be creepy if you're watching this guy in this room and all of a sudden he goes into a different accent and starts reciting this creepy poem. Like, right? He would be like, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, and the way he's positioned, he's just this dark silhouette behind a post that kind of occasionally pops out. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What's happening? But, like, I don't know. The whole thing is just so bizarre.
So you should watch, like, if you guys have Discovery Plus, like, watch the Deadly Possessions episode of the Dybbuk Box. It is, it's just weird. And both the interviews with Jason Haxton and Kevin Mannis, they just kind of give off weird vibes. And I don't know how much of that is Zak or they're weird. All of them are weird. I don't know. Or it's the way it's edited.
Yeah,
to make it kind of creepy.
A lot of it, but
at one point they like slow, like Jason Haxton kind of gives this like creepy smile because he actually calls it like the wish box because he thinks like good things have happened to him, which in some ways like he made a lot of money off the movie rights. So like he kind of says like it's been more of a blessing than a curse, and he gives like a creepy smile and like it like the editing like zooms in on his creepy smile and it's like, why TV?
It's because it's associated with Zak Bagans. You gotta make everything as weird as possible.
Yeah.
Like drama.
Well, that's why I started to stop watching the show, because when he started doing all those reenactments on Ghost Adventures, and it just got so cheesy and weird. Ugh. I miss the early seasons of Ghost Adventures are gold. When they used to like antagonize the ghost too. That was more fun.
That's what we like. We like to antagonize the ghost. God.
Anyways.
Maybe that's what happened. He antagonized the ghost so much that he got possessed, and now this is what we're seeing.
Well, he talks about like that he has been possessed and brought stuff home at different times.
Great.
I mean, they've gone to so many. What the fuck was that?
The coffee machine.
But why is your coffee machine going off?
I don't know.
I hope the audio picked that up. That was really creepy.
My eyes are watering.
Oh my God.
Don't leave me, Kayla.
Oh my God. Well, people talk about, like, when they talk, this box has talked about, like, weird stuff happens.
It was used like 3 hours ago.
Well, we hope we'll see you guys.
Me as a Dybbuk just over there just like, God, I could use some coffee.
That was weird.
Fuck. Don't go.
Okay, sleep over.
Yeah, just we're not recording here anymore.
Anyways, how do we? We're getting ready to end the episode, so I don't know. Is there anything else we want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
Blowing out this candle. Anywhere sells sage late at night.
Yeah. Where can we buy it at 9 p.m.?
Walmart, you think?
Sure. I mean, they sell a lot of weird stuff there.
Surely they gotta have some sage. I think I actually saw sage at Five Below once. I don't know if that's the good stuff.
We'll take whatever.
Yeah, just like I need Five Below sage to...
Maybe make some salt rings. I don't know. Let us know if anything creepy has happened to you while you listen to this episode, because that's apparently a thing. So, yeah.
You should see my face right now.
It is. She is not amused.
I
think I'm just, like, laughing uncomfortably because I don't know how else to react.
This coffee pot's a weird, man.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna go with me to look at it.
Sure. It's brewed a pot. Thanks. So it's a nice Dybbuk. It made you coffee.
All right. Well, I guess that's the episode.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look at my haunted coffee pot now.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram at RemnantsPod, and share us, leave a review, comment what you thought of the episode if any weird stuff happened to you. And hopefully we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
I swear to God, if I dream about an old lady, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I quit. I'm just not
you're
gonna
gonna play Hogwarts Legacy.
I am. I'm not gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna play it all night now.
Yep. Well, catch you on the flippity flip.
Goodbye.
This episode is cursed.
Are we auto-tune? Woo!
Yeah. Woo!
Woo!